You're listening to Incendium's podcast, E-Commerce Growth Leaders. In this episode, we chat with Jonathan Strauss, founder and CEO of Neven Eyewear. John has built his entire business around making quality eyewear accessible and affordable worldwide, while also educating consumers that great eyewear doesn't need to come with a hefty price tag. Please welcome our guest, Jonathan Strauss.
So, John, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me today.
Tell me a little bit about your background and how you came to found Neven Eyewear.
So I come from a marketing background. I've worked in-house at a lot of different brands, and the most current brand that I was working on was a brand called Freestyle Watches, Freestyle Brands. It's a digital sports watch that's water resistant. It was founded in, I think, 1981. It was pretty big in the surf community, and that brand was owned by Geneva Watch Group. And then about 2016, 2017, Jeff Gregg, who I met at the Collective, who also used to be the CEO of Geneva Watch Group, decided to buy the brand. And when he bought the brand, he brought me on to kind of run the brand from an e-commerce standpoint. While working on that, was looking for something to do, something that kind of spoke to me. These things don't just come. Everybody's always like, because, I work in e-commerce, why don't you just start your own brand? And it's not that easy. So, one day I was out with some friends, we were jet skiing. I just bought a pair of like Ray-Bans that, from Lens Crafters or something, probably, spent a ridiculous amount of money on them. And I think like the next day I was out jet skiing with some friends and I flipped the jet ski. When it came up, I was like, I didn't have my glasses and I couldn't see. And I went back to Lens Crafters and they told me basically to go kick rocks. Like they offered me like 10% off. And I mean, they were probably like $500 my prescription. And I just didn't sit right with me. And that kind of led me to figure out how to get this done for, an affordable price. And so other people don't have to go through this. And that's what led me to start Neven. And I remember I thought it was a good product because it was, a lot of people don't understand eyewear, that everybody is using the same manufacturers. It's pretty much the same materials, whether it's TR90 or acetate. But I felt that all these companies are ripping off their customers. When you go buy a pair of Ray-Bans or Gucci's, you're just paying for a logo. And those pairs probably cost anywhere from $3 to the most maybe $8 to make, depending on the quantity that they're producing. But, even my competitors, nobody's reinventing the wheel. I would say maybe Mark Zuckerberg at Meta, like with his glasses, obviously those are different. I get that. But when it comes to everyday eyewear and sunglasses, nobody's doing anything that differently. All I'm trying to do is offer it at an affordable price, like top quality at an affordable price. And that's, every day I work towards making that happen. When prices go up, I still try to maintain our prices and I work with our manufacturers. And, that's my main mission. So that's what kind of led me to start Neven. Yeah. And it's been a pretty long, interesting journey. So, yeah.
Awesome. So in the initial stages, because you've got some really nice designs, is that something that you had a background in at all? And you had input into that, or how did you get the first?
So I would just see what was going on in the marketplace. And I would say I chose pairs that I thought were good. My thought process is every pair we do, we always offer a black on black, like black frame with a black lens. I feel like that's a really good staple. So every pair we ever make will always be offered in like black and black. And then, we experiment with some colors. Some stuff is pretty much what the market demands or people have asked for over the time. Sometimes we'll get a lot of emails. Hey, you don't have a lot of like, yellow pairs of sunglasses. So we'll make like one or two. It's not our best selling thing, but we'll do it, make those people happy. But I was very involved in those initial concepts.
And in the initial stages, is there anything that, stands out that could have kind of derailed you?
I would say definitely in the beginning, it was really tough actually. I thought it was going to be super easy. You have an awesome site, you have awesome product, you turn it on, do some marketing on Facebook, and, sales were just going to come in. That was not the case. Actually, when I started, we offered the standard 10% discount, the standard 20% discount. Then we offered, none of it worked. We offered 50% off. That didn't work. And then I was basically going to close up shop, and I just decided to offer a buy one, get two free to get rid of all of them. And actually, the first day, I think, we had like 20 orders, the next day, 30 orders, 40 orders. So yeah, it really, I'd say took off, and I had to make the decision whether to keep going or not. And I made a decision to keep going. So at that point, I was going to go out of business. I was just going to stop what I was doing.
And then I guess, I mean, that's maybe an offer that do you continue with that now, or was that something that got you the initial kind of trajectory?
Yeah, so we offer a buy one, get two free with free shipping worldwide, and we have a lost, broken, stolen replacement policy. And then on any single pair, you can get 30% off, and that's prescriptions included. For the buy one, get two free, we do not offer the prescriptions though.
So was it your kind of primary success was driven by Meta?
Yeah, so I think everything comes down to Meta. When you have an issue with Meta, it controls basically how your business is doing. So, but yeah, Meta definitely is where we market mainly. We've done TikTok, Snapchat. Uh, there's a couple other sites. There's one that's more like a blog type thing, like message board, but we've done
Reddit
that.
or
Reddit. Yeah, that was it.
yeah.
We've done X, Twitter. We've done even Pinterest too. Nothing is quite like Meta though. Meta is very, very unique. And I would say Facebook even does better than Instagram, I feel.
Right. That's really interesting. So with that, what have been some of your best kind of campaigns?
I would say we have all different, we use static images, we use video, but I would say it's just really speaking to people and telling them what they should know about purchasing from us and being very direct, that we're basically, offering them a deal that's almost too good to be true. That's what we used to get in the beginning. A lot of people didn't believe the deal was real. They would get the eyewear and they'd just be blown away. But I think really just being authentic, not being full of shit. Part of my friend, just really what we're doing is what we're doing, and we're not selling somebody some BS or anything like that. My true mission, my goal is to offer people quality eyewear at an affordable price. That's all I care about. I could care less about getting super rich or this or that. It just doesn't really cross my, I don't really care. I've had success. This is more just fun, so.
And have you found Meta being more or less effective in the recent years?
I think Meta has definitely changed. Attribution is a big part of that. I think with all the updates to iOS and cookies and the different laws,
Yeah.
I think Meta's attribution and Meta's tracking has become BS. Somebody who's spent up to, $1.5 million in a month with them, some of the data that's in their dashboard is complete crap. I think the true challenge for most brands right now is trying to navigate that. You should have a good pulse on your brand. If your ad account's telling you you're at a 2, but your business is running at a 4 overall, you should have an understanding of what's happening. I look at it more from a combined like MER, just because from attribution software, everybody, if you look at what's going on in there, everybody would tell you that Google is the best platform in the world. But really, I look at Google as like, it's heavily branded. Our journey really starts with Meta, but I look at Google as like kind of like a dustpan, broom and dustpan that cleans up after Meta. People see your ad, then they Google you. But we're working on our non-brand stuff, but I feel you really need to have brand down to really get really push on the non-brand stuff. And I think for a lot of brands, your branded stuff covers for how bad their non-brand our non-brand stuff is actually doing very, very good right now.
When you say non-brand stuff, can you give like a few examples?
Yeah. So, if somebody searches Neven Eyewear or Neven sunglasses, our brand comes up. That's a branded campaign. But if they were to search like running sunglasses or polarized sunglasses, that would be a non-branded campaign. And every brand in the world could show up, and it's just about bidding strategies and competing with your competitors over those keywords. SEO plays a part in that too.
Yeah. Yeah. How have you tackled that SEO side? I know your performance has been pretty
So
good over the
we've
last
worked
year.
with a couple of different companies. We actually just got rid of one company. They did more harm than good. It's a very slippery slope. There's agencies that they'll call it white hat, but it's probably black hat, gray hat, maybe, but it could do more harm than good. And you don't even know what the damages are. It could be in the millions of dollars, because you got to think about the time you invested in that agency to do the work. Then you have to think about the time you invest to reverse the work. Then you have to think about all the lost time you have because the work just isn't done. So for a brand like us, when we have a hiccup like that, there's consequences. So we do have we have another company in place now, and they've been able to do really great stuff for us so far. But it's a learning experience. I am not an SEO expert, but I have a very good understanding of it. But I'm not the person every day doing the work. And a lot of people think SEO is BS, but for a brand, you know, for coming up in search, it's important. I wouldn't tell a brand doing zero revenue to focus on SEO, because you're probably not going to get anywhere. You need traffic, you need eyeballs on your site. I mean, we're getting hundreds of thousands of visits, if not millions of visits to our site, a very good firm ranking, and our DR is good, our authority is really good. So I think that we have a lot of pillars to stand on, where, a lot of people, SEO companies will tell every brand they need to do it, and it's just too early. I think there's a right time to start it. And it's probably when you're probably hitting about the $1 million mark in revenue is probably when you should really start to think about SEO, maybe a little bit more. People will probably argue about this. My opinion, looking back, it's probably 1 million, maybe 2 million, in revenue.
Yeah,
And then you should
yeah,
start looking around, see how you can improve, you know?
yeah, 100%. I mean, you can get the basics done pretty easily, and not, you don't
Yeah.
need
I mean, the
any
basics, you should
fanciation.
have, your titles, your H1, your tag. All the basics should be done as a brand. I'm talking about taking it to the next level, how to rank for this, link backs that are positive, not just, I would call them like blog networks that are just crap that has nothing to do with your site. That's going to actually just, Google's one of the smartest companies in the world. They know when you're trying to rig the system. But you also have to have an agency in place that's doing it the right way. There are agencies that will take your money and do black hat stuff and destroy your website. And
Yeah,
then you got to
100%.
fix it.
Would you say you're quite data driven as an individual and as a company?
I'd like to think so, but a lot of times it's just knowing your business, knowing, yeah, I could look at things and tell when I have a problem, but I also know the pulse of my brand, and how things should look and be. There's time of the year, there's seasonality, all those types of things. But yeah, we do look at the data.
Yeah, what are some of the key metrics that you keep an eye on?
Conversion rate, that's huge for me. It isn't for everybody, but and I understand that if I run like a traffic campaign or ads cart campaign, that would lower my conversion rate, but we're not really doing a lot of that. Majority of it is just sales, going for sales with Meta or whatever platform we are, but conversion rate is a huge indicator. Yeah.
And in terms of things like tracking down the sort of funnel of someone's journey, so you look at add to cart rates and like which products are getting high click through rate on site, things
We
like
look
that.
at those things, and we're very, we can react very quick. We see if something is taking off, we can scale that. But, I'm not looking at the whole funnel of, somebody coming in through an email, how they use the site. Like, we look at some of that stuff. We've done it recently, like heat maps. We've used to really see what can we get rid of on our site that people just are not interacting with. And to be completely honest, like, your main banner sometimes is just a waste of space. Like, people see it, but it's not really doing anything. We saw people that were basically clicking the men's and women's button more than the main banner. So you know what? We just got rid of the main banner, moved the women's and men's buttons up, and, help conversion. Little things like that.
And you're running kind of A/B testing on things like that.
Yes. Yes.
Awesome. Looking ahead, what stands out as a main priority for you over the next sort of 6 to 12 months?
Right now, we just rolled out our Atomic line of eyewear, which is just eyeglasses that can have prescriptions. We partnered with Robertson Optics for that. They also handle our prescriptions for our sunglasses, but we're going to be rolling out to about 3,000 doctor's offices over the next year. We just rolled out this week to the first 100, but that's our main concentration is supporting that. We also have our Sight for Sound program, which is basically if you are a touring musician playing, let's say, over 75 shows a year, or a crew member or somebody who works in the music industry, we're offering free prescriptions and free eyewear.
Awesome.
Yeah. That's just something that's a passion for me, music. So we just feel that musicians, they don't have healthcare, a lot of them, and this and that. So it's the least that we could do is offer them free prescriptions or free eyewear.
Yeah. In terms of the biggest obstacles to growth in the next year,
Tariffs and the rising costs of shipping. Shipping is definitely a big issue right now, I think, for a lot of brands. We're actually working right now because Mail Innovations and FedEx, all these companies, DHL, e-commerce, they all had a rate increase because USPS, basically there was this whole thing. I won't bore you with that, but rates is a big thing. And it looks like Amazon will come out the leader in shipping
okay.
right now. That's what it looks
And
like.
how do you see that affecting? Because obviously, I think this is something that's sort of happening across the board. People's costs are going up. Is that something that you think you'll be able to weather quite well versus your competitors?
I think we're ahead of it because we've already have a head start. I know what my competitors pay for things. I know what they're doing, and I've done this a lot longer and I've been in it, and I'm able to get ahead of it, and I know what the bottom line is on these things. We were pretty aggressive with our shipping rates to begin with. We offer free shipping worldwide as it is, but everything is just really calculated for us to be able to get an order out the door. And that, the buy one, get two free. And we have an average order value of, let's say $85. In order for us to make it all work, the buy one, get two free, the free shipping, the lost, broken, stolen, replacement policy, to make that all work, it's all calculated out.
So you have to be already very efficient as a business.
Yeah.
And so
So when they talk about tariffs and this and that, like some of our manufacturers have already given us like discounts, things like that to help it. It's huge though. I'm not complaining, but it definitely affects us because we negotiate over pennies. When you're ordering 1 million boxes, a penny makes a difference.
is that something is that already taking effect then, or that's something that's on the horizon and you're not sure which way it will go yet?
There have been hikes, tariff hikes already, and then there's tariffs that have come into place, but just the rising costs of materials too. So when material costs go up, the prices for us to manufacture goes up, but shipping costs, fuel prices are astronomical right now. So, when fuel's really expensive, airplanes, trucks, all that stuff, it makes shipping more expensive.
How do you see that affecting? Because obviously everyone in the sort of auction for Google keywords, for meta ads, all of these things are kind of dealing with those same problems. Do you find it then evens out in any way in terms of the actual amount that you have to pay per click, or it actually just gets more difficult?
I always look at it like this. It always gets more difficult. Mark Zuckerberg and his team at Meta, they have to make X amount of dollars a day. Whatever it is, let's say it's $100, $1,000, whatever that number is, they need to make a day, right? When people aren't clicking ads, the cost of your clicks go up. When a lot of people are clicking ads, but it's a racket. It's pretty much gambling. It's like the stock market. You're gambling, but you should be able to find this happy place. You should be able to get into a groove where you know what your cost per click should be, what your click-through rate should be. I think testing ads is huge, click-through rate, but things are always changing with Meta. I think attribution, it's huge. I think you have a lot of people at brands that don't really know what they're doing and they're overstaffed and there's too many cooks in the kitchen. You just need a couple of good people to really just be able to look at it to know if things are good or bad. I know companies that are running their ad accounts at a 0.8, 0.9, and I don't understand how you could be in business. Like large brands have no idea how they're doing it. So, but I know that I can't afford to be in business if I was running at a 0.8 or a 0.9.
Can you tell me a little bit about your kind of ad testing processes and how much for a campaign, how many ads do you create? What does that look like?
So that's changed and there's different thought processes on that. So, there's agencies or, people that we work with that believe in, ASC, you run like 10 ads depending on your budget, whatever, let's say it's $1,000 to start or whatever it is, $5,000. There is like a formula. I don't know what it is for how many ads you should probably put in that ASC campaign. As far as other campaigns, other people, I know that they test much smaller ad sets and lookalikes, and they'll run 100 different campaigns at like $300, each, and they control it like that. It's a lot of work, but some people choose to do it like that. Meta for a while was pushing ASC, then they were pushing ASC mixed with traditional campaigns. Now, to be honest, Meta doesn't even know what they're doing. The people that work there don't know what they're doing. I used to have some really great reps there. All of them have left or been fired, but basically everybody that works there has never run an ad account, never managed an ad account, and they have no idea what they're just talking points that the people above tell them.
Kind of salespeople.
Oh,
essentially.
get your clients to run ASC, do this. They'll give you $100,000 to test this or test that. They have their own agenda. So at the end of the day, they're a business too. So you have to remember that. They're not here for you, I can assure you.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess you do your own thing, see what works, and keep running with it. Is there any advice you would give to aspiring founders looking to start their own e-commerce brand?
Don't listen to any of that bullshit on Instagram. All these people saying get rich fast, this stuff, Section 8 housing, put your money into that. These people are just fake. It's like those people in Miami that rent Ferraris and drive them around. It's not real. I would just, if people have an idea, just go with it, figure it out. Whenever I start things, I don't have all the answers. You figure it out along the way. Ask questions, pay attention, I don't know, take it all in. Research. There's this thing called the internet. You can look anything up these days. There's really crazy free software. You can even go look. There's software to tell who your competitors' manufacturers are when it comes to shipping. You see what they're importing, this, and that. If you're trying to figure out where to get something done, there's free software right out there. There's a whole big universe called the internet, and you can figure it out. So,
Advice. And anything that you would tell your former self if you could go back to the start of your journey?
Make sure you have really good agreements. Make sure all the business stuff is really buttoned up. I would say that don't trust anybody. At the end of the day, everybody's out for themselves,
John, thank you very much.
No problem.